Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another podcast episode. My name is Mwarania GM, and this is the Boko podcast. This is the Boko podcast. We have conversations that are boundless, that are borderless, and that are very, 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 very bold. And today, we're going to be talking about gender-based violence against men.
Right.
And with me is my friend, the legit baby.
Yes. Wagwan. We are ready. We are here. Let's have this conversation. As he has mentioned, yes, I am legit baby. Welcome welcome to this episode. And we have so much to talk about. Over to you in studio.
All right. First of all, I think when we talk about the word, or not the phrase, when the phrase comes up, gender-based violence, people actually think about women.
Right.
People think violence against women. That's a society for you. And today we are here to demystify that.
Right.
That we want to put it to light and to openly speak about it.
Yeah.
And let you know that actually even men become victims of gender-based violence. And we are going to show you a good number of men who are victims of gender-based violence, and their stories became mainstream
Right.
as we try to see that we can get the stigma out of the people, out of the community, that so that when we talk about when people face, or when men faced gender-based violence, then they're able to speak about it.
Yeah.
So maybe just to start off,
Yeah.
what do you think, or what do you understand by the term gender-based violence?
Wow. Okay. Like you've mentioned, even when I was doing my research, by the way,
Yep.
and even before this conversation, when you talk about gender-based violence, it's so much. Whatever comes to mind in most people is violence against women.
Yes.
Like even when I was doing my research, like by definition, gender-based violence starts with any violence against women, whether it's domestic or whether it's domestic or any other kind of violence, but it's any violence against women, children, and then men. Like,
Wow.
I don't know if it's petty to like have an opinion about the order, but like,
It's not petty. In fact, it's something that should be put out in the open. Every time we're talking about even equality
yeah,
or equity,
yeah,
every time we're talking about the gender, boy child, girl child, we always put women, children,
yeah,
and then even forget about men. Sometimes we don't mention men.
yeah,
But now I think that needs to change, man. When you are looking at, when you're having your research, what you're saying you found, me, by definition, when I looked for gender-based violence,
yeah,
it said very well, anything that is against any violence and other forms of
Yeah.
any violence that is against a person based on gender. But then from then on, every other point talking about it was speaking about women.
Yeah, it's focused on women.
Yes, and forgetting that men can also be vulnerable, men can also be victims of gender-based violence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And so mainly the victims are usually, okay, they are named to be women. Like
Yep.
people say everywhere you hear a case of, something has happened, any gender-based violence case, the main victim is actually the woman. But we forget that actually men also go through like gender-based violence on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Daily, every single day.
Can
Every
I ask
single
if
day.
umepitia some form of gender-based violence?
Well, okay. Story ni mingi. But sometimes the shida inakuanga when unajua men are usually, although sometimes we get, we are vulnerable, but naturally we are strong.
Okay.
Like you're able to carry that and just move on. And I think the problem is as the fact that men are able to men are able to face the storm.
Yeah.
And carry everything and deal with every emotional thing or anything that comes against them. And be able to also carry the same baggage for
other people.
For other people, women and children.
Yes.
That becomes a point of like, that's where people tend to forget that these people as well, they also face the same challenges. It's just that their way of processing is different from men, women, and children. Because, okay, obviously, when a child goes through something, it's different from a grown-up, whether woman or man. And when a woman goes through something, the way she will process it is different from how a man will process the same.
I want to think men will process it by fact or by not so much emotionally, but women will process it very emotionally.
Yeah.
About children do not even have that, is it resilience to process it. So they will be most hit.
Yeah.
I think if we're in a similar situation, if a man, a woman, and a child were in a similar situation, say, for example, in war, traditionally, it's going to be it's going to be hard on all of them, of course, but it's easier on the man to navigate through the challenges.
Yes.
Mainly because they are masculine and all and all and all. But the thing is, today we have soldiers who are women.
Yeah.
I mean, they fight the battles, and they are not considered less in those places. So when we say that women will take it less serious, okay, or will have a bigger beating. When we say that women will have a bigger beating, or they will experience it worse than a man would, then we are lying.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about equal rights. We wouldn't be talking about women getting the same priorities as men in terms of career and other forms of
so it's a
opportunities.
very complicated, and I don't know how to put it. Like, there's so much that goes on, and if like you don't like know how to address issues, you might miss the point. Because on one side there is equality.
Yes.
There's equality, equal rights, and all that, and all those conversations. And then there's violence against these equal rights that they, in quotes, because I believe when we were created, everyone was given whatever fit them. Like, you come as a full package, just the way you are.
Yeah.
So when I don't know where the point got missed, but somewhere along the line the point was missed. And I guess this conversation should demystify that.
I think I cannot go against the fact that women will be considered the weaker sex by the society. by even the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I believe at some point or in some scripture,
Yeah.
Paul talks of women as the weaker sex.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's Paul. I think it's Paul. It's either Paul or Peter, who talks of love your women because love your wives because they are the weaker sex or something like
Yeah,
that.
there's that.
I do not dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I have a problem is where, in case there is any form
Mm-hmm.
of violence
Yes.
in a family,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if a woman is violent to the man,
Mm-hmm.
and the man goes to report it to the police station,
Mm-hmm.
then another conversation starts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you are not man enough. Yeah.
Mm.
Mwanaume mkubwa kama wewe, why are you being beaten by a woman?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And in most cases, the policeman will actually not listen to the man,
Yeah.
but start doing what? In the fact that, in the case, sorry, that that woman also goes to the police station
Yeah.
to report the same crime,
Mm-hmm.
and this time says that she was beaten by the man,
Yeah.
even if it is her that beat the man,
Mm-hmm.
and then went probably akajigongesha kwa ukuta or something,
Mm.
it will be taken that the woman was battered.
Mm-hmm.
And sasa hii kesi inageukia mwanaume.
Yeah. Her rights were violated.
Mm.
Yeah, in most cases, by the way, ni vigumu sana upate ati mwanaume amepigwa na ameenda ameripot na the same treatment like he would have gotten if he was the one who committed the crime in courts is given to the perpetrator, in this case the woman.
Yeah.
So unapata hata mtu akienda kuripot like kesi haitachukuliwa na ile uzito,
Ile gravity yenye inapaswa kuchukuliwa nayo.
and you realize that by the way wanashindwa kuona that this is also a human being,
Maybe bring a mic closer to you.
okay, whose rights have been violated just the same as ingekuwa kama ni
Ndume.
And so I think we should start talking about like these types of like violence, because also the type of violence affect inafaa kuwa considered.
The type of violence. What does what forms of violence are there?
Right.
Maybe against men.
Okay, let's just I would put it this way.
Yeah.
Forms of violence. Ya kwanza ni physical. If any bodily harm or anything that is done physically to you as a person, that is physical violence. And then there is emotional violence. There is there's also spiritual violence.
Hapo kwa physical kwanza tuanze na hapo. Hapo kwa physical bana ni msi unagongwa slap.
Right.
Unaongelesha bibi yako kidogo hivi ashakuzaba slap. Unajaribu ku have a conversation hivi, as long as amskizani, as long as you are of a different opinion.
Yes. Trouble.
Msharushiwa kiatu.
Nashashika kisu.
Mwiko ndo hiyo. Sometimes wengine wanakuja na visu, yes. Especially if you come from those areas that we're not going to mention, where there is a lot of mirror. Hey. Watu wako tayari huko kukatakata watu. So that's for physical.
Yeah.
So physical, anything that brings bodily harm, I think so. We'd call it physical.
There's also emotional violence.
Emotional violence inakaaje?
So emotional violence ni mostly ina affect, ni vitu zenye mtu anakufanyia hadi una feel by the way ni kama like ana bring down your self esteem ama ana bring down your self worth, especially through like humiliation, you know, criticism, like anakuridicule, hizo vitu.
Ngoja. Kuna hii point, no, is it a point? But there is this scenario where kuna girlfriend wako or your wife or your partner.
Right.
Mnakuwa na kaishu hapa hivi nyumbani. Hapo nyumbani yako fiti. Hana shida na wewe kabisa. Ngoja mmeenda ka event hivi. Ama hivi ama mmeenda kutembelea maybe wazazi, my relatives, some friends.
Yeah.
Vitu kama hizo. Hey, hapo ndio mambo inachacha.
Yeah.
Unaongea ka kitu kidogo hivi. Anakukumbusha everything that ever happened in your life mbele ya watu kwa sauti kubwa.
Yeah.
Anakuhumiliate hapo hivyo mpaka now that I would call emotional
violence, emotional gender based violence, ama emotional abuse.
Yes.
And it happens, by the way, but people don't, hizi vitu like they're not the main conversation.
Yeah.
Which is very, I don't know, like sijui watu wanakuanga.
I saw a social experiment where a man and a woman went into a park.
Right.
And the lady akaanza, of course this was a social experiment, so they started with the woman harassing the man. Mpaka anamshika mashati, anambwagia maneno mabaya. Talking really ill.
Yeah.
And in high tones.
Yeah.
Kwa park. So everyone was looking, including the men. They were looking at them, watching them from afar, and only laughing that this guy is being bullied by a woman. And no one intervened.
Hakuna.
No one intervened.
Hakuna.
And then they went to a different park.
Right.
Now it was the man harassing the woman with wands and shoving her here and there. Everyone, even children, were up to protect the lady.
Yeah. And manze, that's the reality of life. Hivyo tu ndo inakuanga. Like, hata unaweza pata, by the way, if I'm right, in that social experiment, the first person kuingilia hiyo conversation must have been a man.
Yes, it was actually a man.
And sasa unashindwa, okay, why? Like, how are you as a man perception. First? And as a man, you are more willing to look out for a woman than your fellow man. Like, because if you look at it in perspective, as a person, you're meant to look out for anyone who is being violated or who's being abused.
Yes.
But you find that hata men wenyewe, they find it difficult to stand for themselves. That's why if we're having cases of GBV, femicide, nini, utapata kama ni femicide, both men and women are part of that conversation.
Yes.
But ikifika ni if we flip it.
Yeah, if it's now men, what do you call it when it's not femicide? It's the other way around.
Hey.
I don't even know
producer tusaidie. Hata hiyo term hakuna mtu anajua, si wawili hatujui, producer ajui,
ama ni homicide,
bas inakuwa homicide.
No, it can't be homicide. Homicide is
calling it homicide, by the way, would be missing the point, because homicide ina cover
cuts
killer.
Across.
It cuts across.
Yes.
But when it's specific to men,
I don't have the word.
I
believe there's a word, but I maybe you can help us. Producer will help us find that. But it is. I think because of the kind of society that we've grown in. We've grown in a society where women and children are seen as those beings that need to be taken care of.
Right.
And then we forget about the man. We forget about the boy child. Look at how many NGOs are out there talking about the girl child, empowering the girl child. You know, today, in today's society, if you go to the rural areas,
Yeah.
you will find especially where NGOs have really taken root. Probably even in Kakuma, I believe you go to Kakuma, you'll find very well brought up ladies, ladies who have been empowered, even financially, economically.
Yeah.
They've been empowered. And when they get empowered and they come back to the society, then they are looking for a man of their caliber, for a man to marry them.
Yeah.
You find the men are not empowered.
I
Now they
agree.
start outsourcing, looking in other areas.
Yeah.
That's how they go for older men sometimes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Because now we've empowered the lady down here, but we're forgetting about the boy child.
By the way, if I there's this thing right now. By the way, there was something that I was thinking about.
Read us that. Androcide. Andrew. Androcide.
Androcide.
Oh, so the term is androcide. Androcide sounds like you know, when you have many husbands, it's called what? Polyandry. Polyandry. Yes. So androcide. Well,
Hiyo hata sikuwa najua.
I
Na
didn't know
singewahi jua, by the way. But
So
I was saying, I was thinking a while back, women by the way have become so empowered that it's, I don't know, sitaki kusema it's too much, but focus iko huko sana than iko on the male side.
yes.
For instance, if you take right now I'm turning I'm turning 22. Yeah, I'm turning 22. If you take a 22-year-old man against a 22-year-old woman,
Yeah.
uta notice a big difference in every scale. There's a big difference. Okay, people will say,
Well,
women mature faster,
They
nini,
do.
all that. Still, nitatumia tu myself as an example. I will take myself, 22-year-old man versus a 19-year-old. Still, there's a huge difference.
In terms,
Okay, how do I put this? There's just a big difference in terms of
how much care they're given and all that.
unaweza
In
ona
fact, as a man, once you in this African society, once you get circumcised, especially if you're coming from the rural areas, once you get circumcised and you're sent to school,
right.
maybe high school, in most cases the parents forget about you.
Hivyo.
They forget that you need clothing. They forget that you need maybe some pocket money or something like that.
Right.
No one takes care of you. They tell you, you are now a man, go take care of yourself.
Hivyo ndo
At a
inakuanga.
very tender age.
Right.
That is probably for some it's 10 years. For others about 13 years.
Right.
That's such a tender age for a boy to take up the responsibilities of a man. But for a lady in college
Right.
is still getting financial support from their family and from friends.
Yeah.
As for a man is tending to himself,
Shauri yako.
taking care of himself.
Yeah.
No one cares
No
for the
one
man.
cares. And unapata that thing.
This has taken a different direction. We were there when we were talking about gender-based violence against men.
Yes, but unapata hata the root problem is
the society.
is the society.
Is the society.
But let's continue. So tushasema emotional
yes, so there's that physical kind of abuse or violence.
Yeah.
There's the emotional violence.
Yeah.
There's also sexual.
That was exactly what I
Sexual.
wanted to say.
Sexual violence against men.
Right.
Sometimes it's perpetrated by men.
Sometimes.
But yes, there is a very big factor that
Yeah.
women play a big role in violence against men sexually.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
I do not know what to say, but have you ever heard of a man being raped?
Yeah. Well, by the way, men get raped.
But have you heard of it? Have you heard it hit the news that a man was raped?
Well, I've heard it, but
I haven't. In the news? Give me a link to one of them. Give me a link to one of them.
okay, maybe in an article, or you might find an article.
That a man was raped by a woman.
Okay, no, yes. The best you can find, by the way, in the news is an article. That's the best you can find.
Okay.
Sadly, that's the best.
I agree
An
with that,
article.
but
That's the only thing you'll find. But at the radio, at the TV, a presenter stood and said, "Nini na ikakuwa broadcasted everywhere."
In fact, people will be
It's
laughing.
very rare.
People will be laughing about it. Yeah? Saying that so and so was raped by women. I actually, where was that? I think there's a school I remember of that. I'm not going to mention the school because then it will be defamatory.
Right.
But they had a strike. And there was a sister school just across the road. And somehow, some men found their way into that school.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know whether they were seeking refuge or they were just taking themselves there. Because, sometimes also men put themselves into trouble. Knowingly and unknowingly.
Yeah.
So, this one of the men got into, I think, a cubicle that was full of bad girls.
Yeah.
Yo, Jama was raped. Until he lost life. He not lost life, but he fainted.
And
In turns.
Norma. Ngori.
But we never really talk about these things as men.
Yeah.
And
I'm
sure even he probably after that never got to tell anyone.
Sangire inakuwa ngumu.
No, as a man.
How will you stand and say, by the I was raped?
It becomes so hard.
It's
so hard.
difficult.
But we have to actually remove the stigma. We need to be at a position where we encourage men to speak out.
Right.
In areas where they have been abused or where they have been victims of gender-based violence. And not just gender-based violence, all forms of violence.
Right.
Please, there's some things that are usually, very much overlooked. By the way, even on social media, if people are attacked. The other day I saw Mulamwa and the wife.
Is it wife or ex-wife?
I don't know what to... Right now it's ex-wife, I think. I saw something on where... I do not know how the conversation was going.
Exactly.
But he posted something very annoyed. By the way, to a big extent, bro, Mulamwa, I support you. I support you. However, he was met with a lot of hate on social media.
Right.
And let me tell you something. That harassment on social media is also a form of violence.
Yeah. It is, by the way.
It's also a form of violence because, first of all, it gets to you, to your mind. I know people will say, oh, sisi hatujali, nini, nini. You will say that, but it gets to you. It gets to you, and it can be bad. It can be bad.
Yeah, people by the way need to understand that as much as we have a right of constitutions do wanasema freedom of expression. As much as we have freedom of expression,
Yeah.
there is a certain ways that you express yourself that really, even for you, hata heri unyimwe your right, because if you misuse that right, obviously you're abusing. Exactly, misusing of that right
It's abuse.
is abuse.
In fact, you should not. Your rights should not step into my rights. If if it's your right to worship, it's also my right to worship or not to worship.
Right.
I mean, worship whoever you want to worship, but do not impose that worship on me.
Exactly.
And if you the same, if you want to make noise, make noise on your own.
Right.
But if you can draw boundaries where that noise does not come to me, then I would love not to be disturbed.
Exactly. And by the way, that in itself, what we've just mentioned in itself is a type of violence. It's called spiritual violence, where someone imposes or is trying to control your religion, ama the way ama your faith. When you try to control someone's faith, you're abusing them.
Yes, you are.
Everyone has a right, and everyone has a right to express themselves through faith in whatever way they choose.
Yes.
And that responsibility is up to them entirely. They are still the ones who will make the choice.
Yes.
And people really abuse that. Unapata you're in marriage, or you're in a church, and unapata people are abused through faith. Like kuna hizo schemes zenye watu wanapitapita huku zenye, if you look at it, unapata tu ni abuse. Like for example, for instance, although this happened to, I don't know if it has happened to men, but unapata a lot of women are misused in church just because of excuse me, this is what women are supposed to do, ama this is what God has told me that you should do. I can't go into details because I myself don't know the details, but that form of violence is there, and it's a big thing.
Is it violence when men are expected to be the ones that do things like what? Kuchinja mbuzi? Is it violence when when men are expected to be gods? Anyway, that's on a lighter note.
Right.
But I want to challenge the myth that gender-based violence is for women, because gender-based violence is not for women.
Right.
Both men and women become victims of gender-based violence. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be sexual, it could be a lot many other things.
Right.
But gender-based violence happens to all of us alike. And we must acknowledge, first of all, that the society,
Right,
or our cultures do not actually give men a very good platform to speak out in terms of gender-based violence.
right,
Because when they speak out, you will hear that, huyu jamaa alikaliwa, such mamas.
right.
I think it is so hard for men to speak out, but we should encourage them to keep doing it. There are examples of men who have been found in gender-based violence, and I would want us to just like visit a number of them.
Okay.
Just see what was reported, how it was reported, nini vitu kama hizo.
Right.
Yes. So with me, I have the first one. This one I'm getting it from the Star, the
Right.
Star newspaper.
The Star.
But this was on a digital article from the Star. This is in 2024, 23rd August,
Okay.
2024. I don't know how to pronounce this name, whether it's Loe or Lo, Loe.
Low.
That's a guy in his 50s. Yeah. A guy in his 50s. So there was this kind of a community meeting.
Right.
And the guy goes like, my wife's, he has 2 wives, this guy. And he says, my wives are both stronger than me. And they have turned me into a punching bag when I'm sometimes unable to fully provide financially. Yeah, this is in Nyando. Nyando is in which county?
Nyando is in Western.
Niko ma Western huko. I don't know specifically which county, but iko huko. I'm starting to fear these people. They have turned me into a punching bag when sometimes I'm unable to fully provide financially.
Right.
My first wife has 6 children, and the second one has 3. Sometimes when I come back from hustling with food stuff and try to divide according to their needs, it becomes a problem. It often leads to beatings, especially when I'm unable to bring anything at all. Yeah? I went to report this, but when I got to the police station, the officers laughed at me. They asked how a grown man like me can be beaten by a woman.
There you have it.
Then the writer continues to say that it has not been easy, and he can't bring himself to beat his wives in return. And for this reason, he went to report, hoping that action would be taken for the women, or at least the women would be cautioned against beating him.
Such stuff, yeah.
And then he continues to say, I am asking the government or organizations to help men get action. We need help. Only the NGOs within the community try to assist us. And he says that he knows other men from his area who are also being beaten.
Well,
Can you imagine? That
was last year.
That was last year. So most of the men now somebody sent here who is part of an NGO,
right,
that we have cases of wives being beaten by their husbands, but we have also a few cases of men being beaten. I, however, believe that there are many men whose rights are being violated, but they are not reporting.
Yeah.
Most of the men come to us and do not want to go to the police. They just tell us, please call my wife and let us talk. So men are not reporting their wives.
Right.
But wives at the moment.
But you try touch a woman.
Hey, you touch a woman, it becomes a community affair.
Yeah.
But a man would rather die in his own house.
Exactly.
The community, a man will die in his own house and the community will just be laughing.
Yeah, and I think men are usually more emotionally mature.
Yeah.
And they are willing to like face like these things, these serious things.
Is
like,
it?
They're willing to talk. yeah, just to say they're willing to talk, because unaweza pata, even if there is violence in the home and it's the man being affected,
Yeah.
or the man who's being abused, the man is willing to just have a conversation that will fix the marriage, or the whatever the case is, as opposed to when it happens to a woman. I don't know. Okay, I'm not so sure about. I can't speak for women, because women know how they I don't know I don't know what happens.
I don't think
It's like we're living in two different worlds, because you might be facing the same thing, but it's handled differently.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion,
Yeah.
it's not about a man or woman being able to do what? To being able to handle the situation, or to handle, what do you call it, violence,
Right.
or these things emotionally or not. It's about the culture. It's about, you see, if you're a man
Right.
and you are going to elders, or you're going to other people, or even to non-governmental organizations, and you're telling them, I am being beaten,
Right.
the very first thing that comes is, as a man, you are thinking, what will these people come to think of me? What do these people perceive me as? Will they see me as weak? That perception
Right.
men don't want, and so they delay reporting, or they delay taking action until it's too late. Yeah.
Something has just come to
Have
my
you ever
mind.
heard of this guy called James Jenga?
James Jenga.
James
Tell us the
Jenga
story
from
of James Jenga.
James Jenga from Kiabu County. He was a farmer.
Right.
He was battered by his wife, proper. And then he was arrested by the police.
Eh. Unapigwa na unawekwa ndani.
Bana, he was arrested by the police. Well, it's a long story, but eventually, what James Jenga did was, he formed an advocacy group,
Right.
and he called it Sauti ya Wanaume na Watoto. Sauti ya Wanaume na Watoto. Now he has removed women from the
Women are no
equation.
longer part of the equation.
Because yes, men are so dismally advocated for.
Yeah. Right. It's
I was trying to get his story, but I'm getting his story from Standard. And Standard, I have not paid for Standard, so I am not able to read that story.
But you see, the best they can do is put it on a newspaper or on an article. Actually, yeah, on a newspaper or on an article. But you find that those things, most people don't even read newspapers. Like if you look at the general population, the newspaper is right now, the newspaper is the least form of like spreading the message or talking about certain issues, because most of the things are happening online, and if you can't access the online one, you have to watch it on a TV or or listen in on radio. But these conversations don't happen there more often, because I don't know if they take it lightly, of which they're not supposed to, because now you miss a lot when the man is a very integral part of society. He's actually the head, but this head is not even taken care of. So when you don't take care of the head, obviously things will just go bad. Obviously, because you find that men won't be able to focus. men won't be able to provide. They won't be able to do what they are meant to do, so that things can run smoothly. And
I'm trying to look here for the story of James Jenga.
right.
Mwenyekiti sauti. But yes, many people, a lot of men that faced GBV, and they have not spoken out. The few that have spoken out is what we are trying to get to here.
Yeah, and you can't even find them because imefichwa. Hiyo lazima ulipie. Hiyo lazima ulipie ndo upate hiyo story.
But there's also another James Jenga, the one that was is it in Limuru? The James Jenga who was killed.
Right.
I think that one was killed by his... How comes these guys are got James Jengas? All of them. There's one James Jenga who died, I think, in the hands of the wife or something.
Yeah.
I have to check that later on. I think I don't have that story. But the wife made plans to have him killed. Vitu kama hizo. It's still...
Oh, there's something you mentioned, Nini.
Yeah.
Although it was on a light note, but it's also a form of violence. Time enye in these cultural things, you know, the men do the kuchinja and everything.
Yeah.
It's a form of violence. But when you look at, when I was doing my research as well, I found that, it's true. Culture, there is abuse in the line of culture. But it mostly focuses on women. I don't know if there are things that affect men culturally that we can talk about that are a form of GBV.
Culturally.
Yeah.
Do you have one? Maybe start me up with one example. Then.
So some examples are like, zote yakiwa line zao.
Yeah? No, just...
all examples, by the way, they just affect women. All of them. All the ones that were outlined, they affect maybe forced marriage. I don't know if there's any man who has been forced to marry someone and forced marriage is the only example I think that has affected some men, of which, by the way, kupata pia ni ngumu.
Unless we're in Asia, then we can say that forced marriage is a bad thing. Because in Asia, it's the women that pay the dowry, right? Yes. So I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, unaweza pata huko. The man was forced to marry a woman that he didn't want to marry.
Oh, okay. Here is an article from the Standard,
right,
on why men suffer domestic violence in silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. While in Hanoi, Vietnam, staff opened the door of the plane carrying Macron, at which point two hands
Right.
allegedly reached out and pushed him in the face. Do you know that story?
Yeah, I heard that story.
Do you know that story?
French
The
president.
story of the French president.
Right.
Macron.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Macron and his wife Bridget. Yeah.
I don't even know. But
So it happens that Bridget was Macron's teacher
yeah.
and dance teacher, actually.
Yeah.
I think so. And I don't know at what point they agreed to to get married.
To get married.
I think Bridget still sees Macron as That's toddler.
Yeah, that's student.
I think one thing that men should put themselves away from is marrying older women. Whoa. Because as long as there's this other couple that was on this show, Obina's show,
Yeah, right.
and Obina asked them, "How long has been?
That relationship.
How long has your relationship been?" And the man goes 2 months.
Right.
The woman is, "No, it's 3 months. Takuchapa."
Yeah.
Well, she's
Clearly she's
Caucasian
much
or something, I
older.
don't know. And honestly, that woman is way older
Yeah.
than that man. And I could tell, I could see the timidity in the man's face as they had conversations
Right.
with the woman. That woman sees that boy as a toddler. Seriously, if we want to avoid one way, we need to avoid gender-based violence
Right.
against men or violence against men. I don't know if that's what they call it. We must avoid marrying older men, man.
By the way, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of
That's
men
one.
who have married older women, and they all have different explanations for why they did it. But when you look at things, it just doesn't make sense. But I don't know. Matters of love are very complicated, but you can tell every time that happens, there will if when that difference is there, there will be a form of abuse, either emotionally ama even physically, for the case of Nani, the president, or emotionally for the case of this guy anaambiwa tu mbele ya watu. By the way, do you know how many people watch Obina's show?
I know.
Live. Ni watu wengi, but mama tu ako hapo, ako serious, anamwambia nitakuchapa just because of missing ati wamekuwa together for how long.
Well, it I could take it as it was said jokingly, but then no.
How did
no.
you watch the
That's
video,
not
right?
joking. Yeah,
How did
yeah.
you feel when you saw that? Kuna jokes zenye una feel by the way ni joke, but from that clip uli feel a joke.
That wasn't a joke, man.
Uli feel
That wasn't a joke. Kwanza kuna mtu atanyoroshwa
exactly,
or atakaripiwa or something, I don't know.
Things will just go bad.
Now, I want you to consider this. This is what Macron said
Right.
after the video went viral. He says the video was captured of him and the wife that was captured. It was him bickering and joking around. Well, yeah, not him. It was them bickering
Right.
and joking around.
Joking around.
Which is something that they do often.
They do often, of course.
I'm surprised. He says, "I'm surprised by it. It's turned into some kind of global catastrophe, which, with people coming up with theories to explain it, it's nonsense."
Yeah, of course, he had to say that could protect his presidency, maybe. Ama asipe opposition
Maybe
vitu za
to
kuongelea.
protect his.
But we know.
Maybe
we
to
know what the
protect
truth is.
his. I don't know how people view him or something. But here's the thing: many men will consistently downplay instances
Right.
of gender-based violence against men, and they will say, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's not.
She was just joking. Others will just say, she will change, and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think it's time that we got to be aware as men and appreciate the fact that men go through gender-based violence. And we must be ready and willing to speak up against it. Yes.
Very true. And I think to add on that, the most important thing we can do is just men stand up for their fellow men.
Yeah.
Because we all go through the same things.
Mm.
We all go through, hakuna kitu mwanaume anapitia yenye mwanaume mwingine
Hajapitia, yes.
hajapitia
That is true. There's
ama
always-
haelewi.
Mm.
But you find that even it's difficult for men to even talk among themselves, and they should really that's something that should really be implemented more, because that's where tunaongelea vitu zingine, things affecting men,
Yeah.
and also to things that affect the whole society, how we can also protect women and children, and how we can process matters better, because
Do you remember
it's very serious. Yeah.
Moses Wetangula?
Right.
There's a time that he had some bruises on his face and he covered them and he reported his wife for battering. I don't know if you remember that. And everyone on online was like, what kind of a man is he? Now everything turned out to be the guy is weak.
It's his
What,
fault.
it's his fault now. Nini, vitu kama hizo. And it's basically what happens to every one of us when we talk about violence from women as men. When you talk and say that we have faced gender-based violence,
Right.
many people look at us and are like,
Surely kitu kama hii hawezi handle.
is a man that happened to you? Like how?
Right.
Yeah. In fact, not most, but a number of men that are in prisons,
Right.
a number of men that are, probably have gotten divorced, a number of men that have been found guilty
Right.
of domestic violence against women were probably because violence started at home.
Yeah.
And he's been hiding it and hiding it and hiding it and hiding it, or keeping it, or just downplaying it, that nothing is happening.
Right.
But it is piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up. And they are getting to a place of boiling. They're getting to a boiling point
Yeah.
where they can no longer stomach that kind of abuse.
Yeah.
And the man who was not able now to lay a hand on a woman erupts.
Yeah. Now he has no option.
And now he has no control but to defend himself. And at that moment, whatever blow he gives is just such a big blow that no one will forget about it, that no one will let go.
Yeah.
What happens then? The man is found in trouble.
Yeah.
Msee amepelekwa court.
By the way.
It is something that he has done, but it's probably something that has been nurtured over and over.
Yeah. Also,
He has been
find that-
pushed into it, pole pole.
Right.
So it is important to speak early enough,
Yeah.
so as to be able to get away from the repercussions.
Yeah, there was this story of this. There was a man. he was on a station telling his story about
He was a
his
what?
a TV station.
Mm-hmm.
He was telling the story of his life,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife really abused him,
Uh-huh.
and she did something very huge and very demeaning to him. So the story is very long. It starts obviously the stories of marriage zinaanzanga tu kitambo.
Yeah.
Inakwanga tu very long stories. But it came to a point they had children. This man was well off. He had land and alikuwa amejenga hata nyumba. And so they were having problems at home. One, okay, from the man's story, he was saying the woman, like character yake, she's the kind of people who like to drink nini. So she would drink and then she would come and then like things were just happening. But now it came to a point where this woman, like she went to her family and they like planned against this guy. I don't know, you never know people's intentions because whatever she did, I don't know how to explain it, but it was very evil because they pinned a story on this guy. They said ati the husband now ati ali defile mtoto wa anti ya huyu msichana, the wife now. So
the
aliwekelewa
husband defiled?
kesi. The husband defiled a daughter of his wife's aunt.
So the niece.
The niece.
Yeah.
Okay, the wife's niece now. So they pinned that story on him. Yeah, me like your story, like it's just you can't even imagine. Wanampeleka kuna vitu mingi tu zili happen ati the chief was involved, so walikuja wakamwambia chief anataka kuongelesha because of 1 2 3, so waende naye, si ndio? Now they were getting him out of his own house, ndio aende. I think he was part of the nyumba kumi or something. So aliambiwa kuna meeting. Yes. Aliambiwa kuna meeting, chief anataka kuongelesha. So wakaona okay, sawa, acha niwafuate. Kuwafuata wakaenda kwa a certain home. Wamefika kwa hiyo home, now place ya sasa the wife's aunt, yeah. Ameingia, kila mtu ako hapo, the wife is there, the aunt is there, kuna watu wengine hapo. And then he's like, oh, ni huyu? Ni huyu. So ati wewe ndio umedefile huyu mtoto? The guy, hiyo ndo mara yake ya kwanza kufika hiyo place, mara yake ya kwanza kuona huyo msichana. The kid is actually literally even crying. Like it was a whole drama scene. So it went on and went on. Akashikwa. First alipigwa because hiyo issue ilikuwa ina happen kwa boma, si ndio? Alipigwa kwanza. He got so hurt. His back was hurt, hata hakuwa anaweza kutembea. Now when the matter was taken to court, well, he didn't win the case. Alikuwa jailed for I don't know, inakwanga how many years? Yeah, ali spend 8 years, but alifaa kuspend more. He was just taken out because of, I think they made a deal with the nini. So this is what happened. Akifika koti, alijitetea, by the way, alisema yeye atajitetea na lawyer. So whenever the witnesses were coming to the stand, ako na evidence. Because hata mtoto mwenyewe akiulizwa, okay, mzee alikuwa anasema he was given the chance to, because yeye ndo alikuwa anajitetea, si ndio? Anauliza mtoto, ona, unanijua mimi? Ushainiona? The kid is like, amjui.
Yeah.
Even from the medical evidence and everything, there was nothing to prove that this man actually defiled that mtoi. But because of whatever happened, he had to be jailed. So now to the deal that he made with the court, or with the court system, aliambiwa, these people are going like wanakupangia, they're just against you. So to protect you, we'll have to take you in. Juu hata tukikuachilia, they will find another way to like deal with you, or
is that something that can happen?
To eliminate you. It has happened. Like it happened to this guy. So akuwa na option, ilibidi tu spend 8 years, imagine 8 long years in jail for a crime that he did not commit,
Well, there are so many
over
people
a
that
story that
was
was
made
just
up,
that was made up.
manufactured. Wow.
So unaona, like how do you help that kind of person, ama what kind of utafanyaje ukijipata in that situation?
Anyway, let's just say, yo, man, speak up when things start happening.
By the
in your
way,
houses.
cause alikuwa anasema if like he handled the issue when the marriage was having trouble, if he really took things into his hands and maybe changed a few things, because while all these things were happening, familia yake haikuwa inajua. None of his friends knew. Like hiyo time ameshikwa ako peke yake, hakuna mtu wa kumtetea, hakuna mtu wa kufanya anything. Even the neighbors are not even there.
They don't know because he kept silent.
Alinyamaza, alikuwa kila kitu alikuwa anapitia, alikuwa anajiekea. Everything that happened in the house anajiekea.
This is what happens to the good men.
Right.
The good men will always be silent. They will make sure they are trying to sort things out here and there.
Right.
And it can take long before they speak out, you know. And by the time they're speaking out, things are spiraling out of control.
Right.
I think it's very important that I stand here or sit here and look at that camera and tell men,
Right.
you need to love yourselves, first of all. You need to know that no vices should be hidden.
Right.
If you are experiencing any form of violence, gender-based violence, in your marriages, not just in your marriages, even just any form of gender-based violence, if you are a victim of anything, please speak up. Please speak up. It is very important.
Yeah.
Men do not know how to love themselves.
Yeah.
Women will always give themselves the priority. Women will always jump at the slightest opportunity. You know, women will jump at the slightest opportunity to to have self-love and all that and all that and all that.
Right.
But men, we have been brought up in a society that tells us we need to sacrifice ourselves for others. But we cannot do that and live a life that is fulfilling. Because also God wants us to live a life that is a life of abundance.
Right.
Yes. Lakini tukikaa hapo hivyo tu tuna leo umenyimwa chakula nyumbani. Kesho umepewa chakula mbaya ukule kama we ni dogi. Next day, the next 2 weeks, you have to, come with, I don't know what, so that you get sex. All these are forms of violence. Speak up. Speak up. And if it's unbearable, my friend, seek some kind of assistance, maybe from a counselor or something.
Right.
Or a pastor, for those who believe. From a religious leader, your sheikh, and all that. Seek assistance. Speak to NGOs, non-government organizations, like that sauti ya wanaume na watoto. Please, men, love yourselves. Stand up against gender-based violence against men. Speak up against any form of androcide? Androcide.
That one.
Yes. Speak up against androcide.
Mm-hmm.
And let's take care of other men. If we see a man that is going through trash, let's get to talk to that man and at least offer a helping hand to that man.
Yeah.
So many men here are suffering. Vibaya sana. And they're silent because they think the society will judge them. And yes, the society will judge them. But we need to get out of that stigma.
Right.
Yes. Any closing remarks?
Well, my closing remarks, I don't really have much to say, but let's keep the conversation going. Let's speak from a place of, like you've said, let's love ourselves. You can't give what you don't have. So start by taking care of yourself. Take care of yourself first, and then you'll be able to take care of the people around you. And with that, I think, we'll be headed to the right direction.
I think as we wind up, first of all, I want to speak to community organizations, churches, mosques, synagogues. Are there any synagogues? These are why zinaitwa nini hizi? Temples.
Yeah.
And such communities. Please have some form of groups that support men, male-focused support groups, actually. I think that's the word. Have them help men amongst you or in those communities to be able to speak up when they are finding themselves in environments that are very, very, very toxic. Police, there are gender desks in police stations, but most of these gender desks actually help women. If a man goes there, they are not really finding the help they need.
Right.
I think it's the high time that we understand that even men need help. And if they come to the police station and they are asking for assistance, listen to them first. I remember at one point I was in some form of car accident. Someone actually hit my car.
Yeah.
And they were drunk and disorderly, and in some way they mobilized people and made me look like the bad guy. And when they started now like hitting my car and things like that, I just got in and drove off.
Yeah.
And at some point, so when I drove off, they went to the nearest police station and reported a hit and run.
Yeah.
So when I drove up, I did not. When I drove off, I actually went to another police station. And in that police station, it took me a long time before I was served. But the serving was to tell me, now you need to go back to that police station that is nearer to that place. Because it's their jurisdiction.
Right.
No mimi huyo. Nikaenda mpaka hiyo police station. I'm telling you, I entered the police station like this. Before I even speak something, I actually spoke. It was at night, so I spoke to the guy who was manning the gate, or who was close to the gate. He was a police officer, and he went inside, leaving me hapo kwa gate. And those guys became 2 policemen from that cell. And I'm telling you, they manhandled me, saying now I am the one in.
You're the guilty one.
I'm the guilty person. Well, eventually I was able to talk them down, and they got to listen to my story.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say, that was not a case of gender-based violence, but it was a case where someone got there before me and reported, and now I am coming. It looks like I'm coming to cover it up.
Right.
But I am actually the person who is aggrieved.
You're the one carrying the truth.
Yes. eventually they listened to me, and we went to court. We did not go to court actually, but I got to record my statement, and things followed up, and we were able to sort
The issue.
the issue, albeit kidogo tu. We actually have not concluded on that. We have not concluded on that yet. It's something that is ongoing, a conversation that is ongoing.
Yeah.
Story for another day. But yes, when people come to when men come to the police station and they're coming to that gender desk, please, policemen, get to listen to the men.
Right.
The assumption is always that the men are in the wrong, but until you get to hear the story, you never know.
It's totally a different story.
Then I want to urge us in all levels to just be champions. To get to talk about men facing, gender-based violence. That gender-based violence is not specific to women. Men also do face what? Gender-based violence. And when we do that, then we are trying to demystify, or we're trying to remove the stigma that most men will not be very comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
But if we are talking about it easily, and we are raising that awareness,
Yeah.
then people will appreciate that men also become victims of gender-based violence, including vitu kama coerced circumcision, zinaitwaje, this psychological manipulation.
Right.
Psychological manipulation. Let me say that.
Alafu ingine tulisahau. There's also financial
Economical. Yes, we are
violence.
economical
Stealing.
violence.
Mtu akikuibia hiyo amekuabuse financially.
Vibaya sana.
If they
Ukiacha unga nyumbani alafu
bas
upate imeisha, haujui
taking advantage of someone's resources without consent, that is violence.
All right. Yes, those are some of the things that we need to get to think about. And the cultural stigma,
Right.
where men are considered to be tumeweza yote or something, I don't know. Men are considered gods in
Right.
some way, that they will figure it out. Yes, men will figure it out. In fact, we will figure it out. But here's the thing, we also need care. We are emotional beings. We are the very same way you think about women and children, that we are. We have a heart.
Right.
We have emotions. And we get hurt. Our emotions get hurt. We have feelings as men. Let us take care of men, and let us stand up against gender-based violence against men.
Right.
Yes. I think with that, me, I'll stop there. Unless you have something to say.
I've said all I can. Let's keep the conversation going. Talk to us. Tell us what some of the things maybe you have gone through as a man, and you feel like you're not able to speak out. Hit us up in our DMs or anything. Yeah, we're open to conversations.
Yes. We are open to conversations. This is the Boko podcast. We have bold, boundless, and borderless conversations.
Right.
Speak to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. If this is interesting to you, give us a like, give us a share, and a subscribe. We'd love that. Have a wonderful time. See you in the next episode.
Peace.
Adios.